Hello, greetings and salutations, humans, my fellow humans and people. GS Podcast episode 7, dropping at you right now. 7, wow. It's November, it's starting to get cold, the seasons are turning. If you're from the Northeast, if you're from Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Massachusetts, all the way on up to Maine, Pennsylvania, it's cold. Like, this is where the character is built. It takes a very, very special human being to grow up in the Northeast for a variety of reasons. But one in particular is the weather. This breeds a certain kind of person that's growing up with this kind of weather. You got 12 months in a year. And around here, it really doesn't start to get warm consistently where you're not like reaching for a jacket or reaching for a fucking coat until at least June. And a lot of times it could be June can still be cold and rainy and still could be wacky around here. So let's just call it June. So you got June, July, August, September. That's 4 months. And then October can be actually really pleasant as well. But we've gotten snow in October. We've gotten really cold weather in October. So it's kind of like 4-5 months, so not even half the year we spend in like warm weather. It's 5 months. 5 months. The rest of the year is in this other state. It's either transitioning into the cold or transitioning out of the cold. But like 60% of our existence as Northeasterners is spent in cold, darker, less sun, windy, snow, precipitation. Like that breeds a particular kind of person. If you've ever been to Los Angeles, you'll know a couple things. And one of those things is that it's sunny a lot. And I lived in Colorado, and Colorado gets like 300 days of sunshine a year, something like that. There are times where when I would get so much sun, I mean, I really miss the rain. I miss that polarity very deeply. But if you're existing in a place where 5 or 6 months out of the year, it's only half the year at best you're spending in the warmth, and half the year you're spending in cold. That's unique. There's other parts of the country that aren't spending that much time in the cold. Like, we have a lot of extreme here. In the summertime, it can be really hot and humid. We can get some nasty thunderstorms. In the wintertime, it could be really cold and windy. And it could be snowing, and we can have blizzards. And, in the fall, we can have hurricanes and tropical storms. And, it could be super windy. We can also get tornadoes. And whatever the season is, we can sort of get the extreme of whatever that is. So if it's the summertime, we can get an extreme summer where it's fucking hot and humid. If it's winter, we can get an extreme cold where it's negative temperatures or, single digits with negative wind chills and, feet of snow. Like, that's real. And that's growing up here. And the more north you go, the more true that is. If you live in Maine or Maine and northern New Hampshire and Vermont, that's even more real in terms of like the winter. I mean, the last company that I worked for, and much love for those of you listening from there. That was one of the, one of the greatest 6 years of my career. I'm still thrilled about it, and I miss a lot of it. I really do. But Maine is where this company was headquartered, so I used to go there quite a bit. And I mean, I'm talking about, here in Jersey, we get at least 4 months of summer, 5 months of summer. In Maine, you're lucky if you get 3 months. It's different. It can get real cold real quick. And again, that breeds a kind of human being. People in Maine are so nice. They're so nice. They're so nice. There's a wholeheartedness to people in Maine. There's a realness and authenticity for people in Maine. They're genuine. There's also a level of they're more relaxed. They know who they are a little bit more. They're not as distracted. Population is less. You're in beauty. You're pretty pulled away and far away from big cities. I mean, you're 2 hours from Boston. You're 4 hours from New York. 5 hours from New York. It toughens you up. I'm going to be honest. It started, it's getting cold here. And the last couple mornings when I went to go for my run or do my morning hike, I would chicken out. It's just shocking. I wake up and it's 33 degrees. And it's I don't think it's gotten that cold yet, but it was 38 the other day. It's been warm, and it's all of a sudden it's 38. And it's just shocking, and I'm not a cold weather person, but I grew up here. And I lived in Colorado. So I've really not. I grew up in Jersey. I went to college in Connecticut. I lived in Colorado for 9 years. I have not spent a very long time away from snow and cold. The longest that I've stayed away from the cold would be when I was in Hawaii this past year. I was when I was in California. So really from the end of January until May, I was in either California or Hawaii. So, you're going to take some time away from snow there. But even in California, you can still get snow. You go to, Lake Tahoe. It's a different kind of world over here. We are bred to be a little bit harder and a little bit grittier, a little bit more enduring in certain ways. I also think that it gives us our attitude. I think you start to become your environment. You start to become your climate for sure. When it's nice outside and it's 80 degrees and it's summertime and it's, it's 75 at night, people were a little bit happier around here. People are outside. There's music. People are walking around. People are eating ice cream. People are laughing. People are driving around with the top down. There is a level of in the summertime. And in the wintertime, it's just, there's a little bit more like this. Fuck. Woo. It's just, it brings you in. It tightens you up. It's God damn, it's so cold out there. Fuck. That's what it does. In the summertime, it's oh man, it's so nice out here. And then the winter, it's fuck, it's freezing. And that builds character. It builds and it strengthens resolve. It's forcing you into something that you would not choose. Imagine choosing every day to step into a cold shower. I started doing cold showers on a semi-regular basis a year and a half ago. I would take a cold shower. I'd put it to cold and I would go into it. Or I would get into the shower and then I would turn it to cold. That's a really hard thing to do, especially if it's cold outside. I mean, if it's 90 degrees outside and you've been sweating and you're working in the yard, that's actually very relieving. But I would do cold showers, and the reason that I would do it is, and I haven't honestly done a cold shower since July or August. I'm going to write that down. Cold showers. The reason I would do a cold shower is because it would force me to have to adapt to something rapidly. It's a training thing. It's like a conditioning thing. If I can step into this cold water that I don't want to step into, it's the last thing that I want to do. When I get into the shower, I want to get into a hot shower. But turning it to ice cold is kind of one of the last things that I want to do. So I know that that's the last thing I want to do. Kind of the same way that when the weather turns from summer to freezing, like when I woke up the other day and it was 38 degrees, there's a part of me that really doesn't want that and that most likely would not choose that. But because it's being forced on me, I have no choice but to adapt and to deal with it. So it's like I'm voluntarily putting that kind of like resistance on myself. It's easy to just get in the shower every day and take a hot shower, but what if, what does it feel like to do a cold shower? It sucks. Every cell in my body for at least the first 20 to 30 seconds, sometimes the first minute, is like, what are you doing? Get out of the shower. It's freezing. Put it on hot water. Like every single part of my body is trying to talk me out of doing the thing that I'm doing in that moment. It's like, no. This is all wrong. And like playing with that, sitting with that, I'm standing in the shower while all of that chaos is going on in my mind. And it's not just in my mind. I mean, it's my body too. Like I'm shivering and I can feel my body like trying to get me to turn to get out. There's a sympathetic response going on. There's a lot of things happening. There's a fight, there's a flight. There's things going on in my brain to kind of handle the situation. But I'm the witness. I'm kind of the breath behind it that's watching all of it and just noticing like, wow, look at that. Look how crazy my mind gets. It's trying to get out of here. I just start breathing and I can like really tap into the cold and tap into the freezing. And then all of a sudden I stop shivering and I'm just standing there in the freezing cold and I'm just getting this cold shower on me. And it no longer becomes oh my God, this is terrible. What's happening to me? This water's so cold. Oh, this is terrible. It goes from that to, oh, I'm standing here and there's water pouring on me and it happens to be cold. Like the narrative goes away. The story goes away. The narrative of like, oh my God, this is happening to me. It's so cold. This is terrible. Like that's a narrative. What's actually just happening is that I'm standing here and like clean water is running on me. And it is cold, so it's telling my body that it's cold, but I'm in no physical danger. I'm not going to die from this. And everything slows down. I still feel the cold, but it's not a problem anymore. I stop shivering. Shivering is your body fighting the cold. It's trying to, oh God, it's cold, I got to warm up. But when you just kind of like relax, eventually you get to a place where you're not shivering anymore and you're feeling the cold, but it's not a problem. It's powerful to get to that point. And if you do it long enough, and I think the time is about 3 minutes or maybe it's 2 minutes, where the cold shock proteins begin to synthesize. And so that gets released. And when you come out, I mean, you really I feel unbelievable after a cold shower. Because I kind of went through like this mini journey of like, it's like this condensed hero's journey. You know, here I am. Here is the challenge in front of me, which is the shower that's cold. I have to go step into the challenge, learn something about myself during it, and, you know, hopefully come out the other side and have succeeded. It's like this mini hero's journey that you can create for yourself in the morning when you wake up. And it could be like one part of it. I mean, maybe you work out first and then you finish it with a cold shower or whatever it is. But it condenses a life journey into just 3 minutes. This is like extreme challenge for 3 minutes, and everybody has 3 minutes in the morning. I think what we don't have, and what I lack at times, and that's why I keep doing this stuff to strengthen the muscle, is I just lack sometimes the resolve to put myself in the position, and I come up with excuses and reasons why. So I spend time with that, and a lot of times it's even an extra victory if I can get through my own BS of the moment. So that calm in the peace, that calm in the storm. It's easy to be calm in the peace. The calm in the storm is what I'm talking about. Like, that's what gets me excited. Like, I have this crazy obsession, and it's coming into realization and form even more these days. But like, I have this obsession with putting myself into challenging situations, nothing life-threatening or dangerous, but challenging situations, because it forces my brain, it forces my spirit, it forces me to produce, to protect, to show up, to perform, to whatever it is. It's the pressure that I need. It's the friction that I need to come at the world, to show up completely. I really like the fight. And that's just the way that I'm wired. And maybe not everybody feels that way. Maybe that's not for everybody. But that's just what I found to be true for me. I'm just sharing what I'm learning to be true for myself. That calm in the storm, like getting there, I could get there in a lot of different ways. One is a cold shower. 2 is sitting meditation. Specifically sitting meditation. And there's a million meditations in the world. Everybody's probably heard about meditation at this point. You've probably seen on Facebook or Instagram people selling meditation workshops and transcendental meditation, and buying the course and all this kind of stuff. And meditation is something that everybody can learn how to do for free. You don't have to pay somebody. It's not necessarily like it's not like bow hunting. You should hire a coach to learn how to bow hunt, or learn how to do CrossFit, or do like Olympic style lifting. There's a particular strategy and tactics and skills you have to build. Meditation is more of just training yourself on how to just sit still for a little while. I mean, start there. It's like before you get gym membership. If you haven't worked out in a while, or you've never worked out, why don't you start by walking every day, lifting some weights at home, buying some light weights and doing push-ups. Like, commit to that for a month. If you can commit to that for a month, then you're ready to go to the gym. I think what a lot of people do is they just sign up for the gym membership, thinking that they'll just go because now they have the gym membership. And a lot of people, that might be true. But ultimately, if we're not conditioning ourselves to be ready for the thing, then when the thing shows up, we're not going to be ready for it anyway. So with seated meditation, the biggest challenge is to just be able to sit still, number one. So I'm going to do a little bit right now. I'll just sit here. And it's kind of like you're just getting really, really still. And much like the cold shower, as you get more still, more and more noise starts to come into your mind. More things start to come in and say, "Why not? Like, you should come over here, do this. Oh, you got to go mow the lawn. Oh, you got to go pick up Joseph from school. Shit, I got to get an oil change. I really need to book that vacation. I can't believe she said that to me. I can't believe they posted that on Facebook. God, that guy was such an asshole this morning." All these little, right? The mind is just, you're seeing all of it. It's kind of like rocks are being thrown randomly into the water, and you're just seeing all of the rocks hitting the water and all the rippling going on, right? And you just keep watching and watching and watching. And the challenge is to stay present and to stay focused on the breath. Like, that's if there's any challenge in the meditation, if there's any thing to elicit, it is your own presence and your own strength in just being calm no matter what. Just practice being nothing. It's the hardest thing to do. It really is. What's way harder than being somebody who produces a lot, somebody who does a lot, what's even more challenging than that is somebody who can actually stop completely for periods of time by themselves and have the presence to slow down. Slow down. And if you sit with that long enough, things will slow down. Because time's all relative. And as things slow down, those rocks stop getting chucked into the water, and things can just calm themselves. The water suddenly becomes still. And you're just in that. Like in the cold shower, you're just in it. So seated meditation, just focusing on your breath. And every time that your mind goes to thoughts, you just focus back on your breath. And just watch how you breathe. Your body is breathing whether you're paying attention to it or not. It's something that's happening that you don't have to control. You're breathing. So it's something that you can tune into and just watch like a television program. In the same way that we get onto our phones and we need content, so we look at videos and we look at posts. Dude, I got the best fucking video right now. Tune into your breath. Tune into your breath. You're tuning into an animal naturally breathing. That's wild. Spend time there. It's wild. It's wild to hear your breath. It's wild to hear your heartbeat. Really start to feel things in your body and realize that you're alive. And again, it builds that muscle of presence in the storm, just calmness. So it builds it. It's a muscle. So that when things happen in life, you can return back to that state because you've already been there. At first, we get to that place and we don't know how we get there. It's kind of like the bat cave. Like people end up in the bat cave. They don't know how they got in there. It's just kind of like they woke up and Batman took them there, but they don't know how they got in there. They wouldn't be able to get back to it. But after a while, if you keep getting there, you pay attention to how you get there. And for me, it's stillness and just quieting my mind and getting to that place. And no matter what's going on in my life, I have the ability to access that. Whether I choose to or not is a completely different thing. There's many times where I know that that's accessible and it's sitting on the shelf just like looking at me like, hey, here I am. You can come back to stillness. I'm always here. And I'm like, nah, I'm going to try to find it another way. And then I stick my face in technology or the TV or, one of the things that I'm a junkie. I'm a podcast and a book junkie. Like, I listen to way too much. I listen to way too many books on tape. Like, way too many. I listen to way too many. It's like I love to just consume information. And there are times where like that's appropriate and I want to consume it. And it's like the stuff that I consume is like, it's not jelly beans and junk food. It's leafy greens and grass-fed beef. It's healthy stuff. Philosophy and history and science, and I love educating myself about the marijuana industry and understanding what's going on with space and with our science and physics. Like all that kind of stuff. I'm really interested. I'm a huge, huge nerd with that stuff. And so I take a lot of that in, but sometimes I take in too much. That's like my default though. Like on the shelf will be stillness and silence. And I see it and I know that if I just commit to that, then I would come back to a more calm state. But I like all the information. I want to be in the middle of it. I like it. Yeah, it's good. But when I pull away from it, if I take like a 2 or 3 day phone detox, which I do often. I will take at least a day off the phone. Like once a week, I for sure I will take a complete day away from the phone and all technology. I don't look at the phone. I don't want to look at the phone. So it's on the shelf, stillness, but I want to go back to the chaos. And it's just a process of training myself to realize, okay, you've been in the chaos a little bit too long. Let's go back over here. And then sometimes I'm over here too long. I'm in the stillness and I'm in the silence too long. It's like, dude, you've been like meditating under a rock for the last 3 days. Like you should come back out now and like, okay. So it's just this constant balance. But that's how I like to live my life. The other thing that creates calmness in the storm for me is exercise. Like this is the biggest one. Exercise is many, many different things, but I'm going to define it like this. Something physical that I'm doing with my body that requires me to move and to be active. That's exercise to me. So it could be literally doing one-legged squat, like chair squats. Like that's exercise to me. It's movement. It's requiring me to be active, to move. It's engaging my body. Like that to me is exercise. If I can create a challenge through my exercise, that is another door into cultivating that calmness in the storm, that being okay with the cold, being okay with the freezing, like whatever that is, that flow state, that state of just being. We've all been there. Think about a time where you've been in that flow state, where you're in the middle of something, and whether it was something really, really fun or maybe it was something really challenging, you're in that state where you're just in flow with it. It's happening. You know it's happening. It might be extremely challenging, but you're moving with it. That's the feeling that I'm talking about. And I think that state a lot of shit can get done in that state. I think that a lot of things can be created in that state. I think a lot of healing can happen in that state. A lot of connection can happen in that state. So exercise is another way to get there, because you're creating a challenge for yourself that is going to generate and is going to kick up the dust of the part of your brain that says, no, I don't want to. The same part of you that didn't want to go into the cold shower, the same part of you that doesn't want to sit still, close your eyes for 10 minutes and watch your breath. That thing that's like, no, I got to be over here. I got to go over here. No, I got too much to do. But just, you know what? I think it's good. I just did 2 minutes. That's enough. And off to the next thing. Like that thing is the thing that is creating the mess. And that's the thing that we're just looking to like observe. So I'll give you some ideas for exercise. I'm going to start with yoga, because it's been one of the most transformative things that I ever started doing. Yoga has many variations. There's many different kinds of yoga. There's also all different kinds of schools that you can go to. There's different classes, different methods, different teachers, different philosophies. So when I say yoga, I'm talking about all of it. It doesn't matter which one whether it's Bikram yoga or hot yoga or core power yoga or aerial or vinyasa or whatever the style is. You just have to find what is fun for you and what you'll do. For me, I like align and flow, and I like vinyasa, and I like hot. Those three things, and here's why I like them. I like align and flow, because I like to align my body while I'm doing the yoga so I can really get the pose and hold it as long as I can, because that's what cultivates this craziness in my mind. When I'm doing this, I'm like, fuck this. I should be home. I should be reading. I should be running. I'd much rather be running right now. This is so stupid. I can't believe I'm standing like this. Look at me. Like, that's sometimes the craziness that goes on in my mind when I throw myself into a challenging situation. And for me, yoga, and I've been doing yoga for 5 years, it's still challenging as, it's so challenging. It never gets easier. I mean, that's not true. Things get easier as you do them, for sure. But the things that were hard get easier, but then you learn about all these other things. And it's just the challenge and the journey is never ending. I like to stir up that part of my brain that wants to be in the chaos so that I can look at it and breathe with it and just get everything calm and get into that flow state again. And yoga can bring me there. Hot yoga is another way to do it, because it gets so hot in the room that every single part of your body wants to quit, at least for me. And I know a lot of other people think this too. It's just you're pushing yourself past what your body wants to do. And again, that brings up a lot of craziness. Now, if it's really challenging, it can bring up even more craziness where it feels like it's life-threatening. You know, like that's like hot yoga does that. Like when things get real hot for me, I start feeling like, whoa. It's like way too hot in here. Like I get really, really skittish around that kind of thing. But again, it stirs up the heat. So it stirs up the craziness. So I like to look at all of that. I really like to look at the crazy and see what's going on so that I can just be with it. I sit with it as if I would sit with a crazy, crying, screaming child. I would sit with it as if I'm serving to sit with, animals that are disorderly in some way, and just sit with them. I sit with this part of my brain. I look at it with compassion. I realize that, there's a lot of reasons why I'm thinking the things that I'm thinking, a lot of conditioning, a lot of things that I've been told, a lot of stories that I've come up with to protect myself. it reveals all of these things to me while I'm doing them. And I can't hide anymore. I can't hide from any of it. So all these challenges that I come up with, they bring up the bulk crap so that I can start my day from a place of being honest. I don't want to start my day from bullshit. I try to get to the honest truth about why I'm here and what I'm doing right now. Every day I'm in the present moment. I wake up, I'm so thankful to get up in the morning. And even if I'm moody and cranky, I still get to that place where it's just like, gosh, like I'm so happy to be living the life I'm living right now. Anyway, getting way off topic. The exercise, yoga is number one. I recommend that. But it's anything. For me, it's yoga. It's also lifting. I do twice a week. I will lift weights. This is a very light workout. I do cleans. I will do military shoulder press. I will do some kind of row. I will do some kind of arm curl. And I will also do some kind of squat. And I also will work with the kettlebell. And I'll do cleans with the kettlebell, or I'll do presses with the kettlebell, or just twice a week. And the reason I do twice a week is because my body does not respond the way that it used to with weightlifting. I weightlifted since I was 13, but now it's just like, if I push it even a little bit, my body's just like, what are you doing? And then I can't lift for like a week. So I just really, really try to just I hit it, but like gently, but I hit it twice a week. And when I'm lifting, that's another part of me that brings up resistance, and it brings up just like junk, and I can look at all of it, and I can breathe with it, and I can just release it and let it go. And so you got yoga, you got lifting weights, but really any kind of exercise, because the exercise is going to bring all this stuff up. Calm in the storm. The calm in the storm. I think life happens. Life is happening. I think there's two worlds happening. There's the world, and then there's how we think about the world. There's what's actually happening, and then there's what we think about what's happening. The narrative that we build, the story that we come up with to explain away what's happening. Those to me are like the two worlds that are going on. And the world that we build in our heads is sometimes could line up and be true, but most of the time it's not. And most of the time that's where we're spending our time, is in the head story, not in what's actually happening in front of us, but what our minds are making of it. We spend our time there. Our consciousness, our thoughts stay in that place. Something could be happening out in front of you, and then in your brain, you're coming up with the story to make sense of what it is. So, like, back to my cold shower. When I got into the cold shower, my body's like, it's cold. Like, what are you doing? It's freezing. Get out. Like, we're going to fucking die. Like, what's going on? Are we in the tundra? Like, we got to get out of here. My body's going crazy. But really, there's no threat. That's just what my body was doing. My body was going into this response, but like that, it was building a narrative. It was going into a story like, this is not good. We're frozen. This is dangerous. Like, we got to get the hell out of here. And maybe some of that's true. Maybe if I was out skiing and I got caught in an avalanche, like that would be, like that response would be appropriate. But when I'm in the cold shower, I can realize that there is no threat. It's all good. And I can kind of see how my brain, it's like the one thing that's happening is that there's cold water going on me. The other thing that's happening is that my brain is building a story about how hard and difficult it is. Those are the two things that are going on. For sure, there's water pouring on me, and my brain is also coming up with this crazy story. What if I disconnect from that story, or just not buy into the story and just be present with what's happening? The fact that this cold frozen water is pouring on my body. And then it just becomes cold water pouring on my body. There's no more struggle. There's no more story. There's no more suffering. The suffering begins when the resistance, when you're resisting what's happening. Whatever the thing is that's happening is happening. And then our minds resist the what is happening. And they resist it because it's perceived danger, and it feels safer to retreat back to the story. And I think that this is the place that's it's useful to spend time to clear out these corners, to clear out that junk, to realize that it's not really useful. It's just kind of this, it's just junk. It's dust. Like every now and then you got to go through and you got to dust the house. You can't live in a house that's never been dusted. It has to get dusted. You got to vacuum. You got to clean. That's what this is all about. Anybody that's ever gotten a tattoo, and depending on where you get it on your body, it could be more or less painful. I have 2 half sleeves, and the most painful part of it is on the inside of the arm, like on the inside of the bicep, up near like the armpit especially. That was like very painful. Like on a scale of 1 to 10, it was for sure over a 5, and it would like tap into like 7 and 8, because it would hit nerves. But I can't say that it's like that painful, because let's be honest, I'm a man and I'll never experience what it feels like to have a child. And to me, like, that's got to be unbelievable. So when I'm talking about a tattoo, I'm like, I don't know how painful it really is, but to me it felt painful inside of here. But there's a point, and when you're getting a tattoo in these sleeves, they would, they're 4-hour sessions at a time. I got many 4-hour sessions while I was getting these done. And it's like, that's 4 hours of a needle tearing through your skin. Like, it's painful. It just is. So at some point, I stopped fighting the pain. Because every now and then you're kind of like, you're doing this kind of, you're like, oh. But after a while, I'm just like, you know what? I'm not going to fight that anymore. And the pain was still there, but my story and my fight and like the friction behind it was gone. So there was less suffering. So it actually didn't feel as bad. It only feels bad when we suffered through it, when we tell ourselves how bad it is. Like, that's where it seems to be the most jacked up. I think when I can really like sit still and pay attention to my mind and like treat it like a child. Like, I listen to it, I love it, I don't judge it. I let it kind of wear itself out. And I can come back to peace. I can come back to who I really am. And I'm not caught up in all the stories and all of the beliefs and ideas and understandings that I have, because all that stuff is going to change. Like, for sure it's going to change, and I want it to change. I hope that what I'm saying right now change. Like, I hope that I look back on myself, 10 years from now, I look back and say, boy, what the hell was I thinking? Like, I hope I'm always evolving my thought. I hope I'm always evolving my consciousness, the way that I'm seeing things and the way that I'm seeing myself first. Because how I deal with myself and this maniac and this animal has everything to do with how I handle and treat the world. It has everything to do with it. When I'm being really, really a great friend to myself, I'm a good friend to other people. When I'm being generous with myself and taking care of myself, it's just that much easier to be generous and caring with other people. And it's not like a means to an end. It's not like a causation thing where it's like, oh, if I'm with myself, then that equals, if I'm kind to myself, that equals kind to other people. I'm just saying it's just kind of this like one flow. It's a flow state. Again, it's in that world between the thoughts. It's in the being, it's in the doing. It's not anything this is like what the Tao, anybody that knows about Taoism, they talk about Wu Wei, which is Wu Wei means to do without doing. It's like it's right on that line between doing something and not doing it. It's nature. It's in the same way that an apple tree produces apples, or it's appling, like it's doing what it does. It apples. That's Wu Wei. That's to do without doing. That's action without action. It's just being itself. It's just being what it is, like that flow state, in between the thoughts, in between the noise, what's really there. And what's really there for me is I can't deny the fact that I'm alive, number one. I'm alive. Like, I'm not dead. I'm alive. My body is alive. My heart is beating. My liver is kicking. My organs, my stomach, my brain, my throat, like muscles, cells, everything in this body is operating. That's a fucking miracle. Like, I can't get over how much of a miracle that is. That's crazy to me. There's so many things that could go wrong. It's a miracle that it all works. It's so incredible. And I can't spend a minute denying that anymore. And I've literally stripped away everything so that I can be 100% present with that reality every morning and really truly have time to spend on the miracle that is the fact that I'm still alive. And I'm not saying that I should be dead. I'm not saying that I've lived a dangerous life. What I'm saying is, for all of us, it's a miracle to just keep waking up every day. It's a miracle. It really is. It seems like the odds are stacked against us. There's so many wires and things going on. You'd think that it would be so easy for one thing to just ding, and yet most of us are here every day. Most of us. And obviously the ones that haven't made it, our ancestors, our friends, our family that aren't with us, their bodies are no longer with us, but their energy is still here. Their legacy is still here. Who they were is still here. It's alive in us. Everybody. That's real. I spend a lot of time on that stuff in the morning. I write about it. I think about it. I talk about it. And it really connects me with a deeper purpose of living. It connects me with a much, much deeper purpose. It shows me the areas where I'm pretending. It's showing me the areas of my life where I'm half-assing it, where I'm not all in, where I can be more honest. Because I just come to that reality as soon as I possibly can, that we're so vulnerable, that this thing could end at any moment. And that seems terrifying. It could seem terrifying, but to me that's liberating. It's the most freeing thing that there could possibly be. Nothing's guaranteed. Everything's going to change. We don't control anything except our choices and how we show up in the world. That's the only thing that we control. The rest of this is just happening, and we're going along for it. And I think the more that we can jump into that cold shower of life, the more that we can find that stillness in the times where it's chaotic, that's where we find ourselves. That's how we get back to flow state. That's how we get back to being home and peace. And whatever it is that we think that we want, that by chasing out in the world, going out there and killing it. I'm going to get this. I'm going to get that. I'm going to get this. I'm going to build this. And I'm going to build that. I'm going to do this. I'm going to. So I feel good. I'm going to be that. Whatever the thing is whatever the feeling is that we're looking to grab, that we're trying to attract in, that we're trying to produce by doing all of these things, that is the thing that is found in the stillness, in the not doing, in the peace, in the calm. Like during that cold shower, when your body's screaming, no, I want to get out. Like that's where the flow state is beginning to happen. That's where it's happening. That's where the peace, that's where the feeling is. That feeling that we want, that's where it comes from. It comes from that levity and being in ourself, being true to who we are. Being true to who we are. I've heard that. How many times do we hear that in our life? It's such a cliche thing to say, but it's true. If you're actually paying attention, being true to who we are, that is the most important thing. There's nothing else that's more important. For me, there's nothing else more important than being honest and being true to who I really am. That's vital. I've seen that. There was a time where being myself was more painful than pretending to be somebody else at times. And now I'm learning that it's much, much more painful to try to be somebody else so that I'm accepted. That's becoming much more painful than just being who I am. And I think, this is just like anything in life. Until the thing that we're doing becomes more painful, we won't make a change. It's taken me about 35 years to get to a point where I've like hit a wall of like, fuck, I've been living just a little flat. My note's just a little off. And there's no judgment. There's no judgment here. There's no regret. I'm not like, oh, what an idiot I am. It's just an awareness. It's a real deep awareness. It's like, look at that. I see how I've been coming at life. I see the values that I've placed to be important. I see how I've gone through life. I see what I have deemed to be important, and I see that. And I'm seeing now how those things that I once thought was important are much, much less important. Some of those things are not important to me at all. And what's more important to me is taking care of myself and being honest with myself so that I can be of service to the world, so that I can be honest in myself with the world and bring my gifts to the world and be generous with the world. Like, I have so much to offer. I have so much to share. I have so much that I want to give for free. I don't want anything in return. And if I make some money just to pay my bills along the way, that's all I can ask for. I'm here just to bring gifts to the world. The more that I can take care of myself, that to me has become my number one. And I used to sacrifice who I was, and I used to sacrifice my truths, mostly because I was more concerned with how people would view me, and I wanted to reduce the amount of judgment that I was receiving. Whether it was real or not, whether it was real judgment or just perceived judgment, but one way or the other, I wanted to reduce that. And so I thought, if I can conform and if I could be more like everybody else, then it will potentially reduce the suffering that I'm feeling. What that actually did was increase the suffering, because I'm not being who I really am. I'm choosing to be somebody else. I'm not in alignment with my core values. And I don't know if you can hear my phone ringing in the background. Let me turn that off real quick. This stage of the game, what's more dangerous than anything is trying to be somebody else or not following my way. And I think that's where I'm at. And it feels good. It feels really, really good. It's scary. It's terrifying most of the days. Most of the time, well, I wouldn't say most of the time, but like I get enough moments of terror come through me about my life and what I'm doing. And again, it's just like the cold shower. It's just all the thoughts coming of like, we can't do this. This is terrible. We got to get out. We got to bail now. And it's like, no, we're good. We're finally safe. And the more that I tell myself that, the more that I feel that, the more that I communicate that internally and spend time with that realization, that truth, it feels good. And the outside world reflects that. You know, I get what I consider to be like helpful validation. It's like, okay, I see why I'm here. I'm doing my thing now. It feels good. It feels really good. And these podcasts are a big part of that. Huge part of that. And I hope to have more. I hope to have more podcasts and more things where I'm speaking and talking about all kinds of stuff. I got a lot of ideas. I got a lot of things to talk about. But for now, that will wrap up another edition of the GS podcast. That was episode 7. I'm so grateful again for you all listening. And life is good. Life is amazing because you woke up today. Nothing else has to happen. We're not owed anything. Like that body woke up. You got another shot at it. Make the best of it. Be kind to one another. Love each other. Make a friend. Be kind to yourself. Choose to just realize that everybody's just you living another life. It's just you in a different body or a different gender or a different age, doing a different job, living in a different state, raised by different parents, raised in a different culture. But it's like, it's you. Like, how would you be if you were raised in the slums, in the ghetto? How would you be if you were raised in a small town in northern Michigan? How would you, like, everybody that we come across is really us, but they've just experienced it through a completely different life. So to spend any time on trying to damn that person or make their day feel worse just because we want to try to feel better, like that is the gap that we have to sit with. If we feel like we need to take down other people to make ourselves feel better, that's the disorder that we need to sit with. That's the thing that's behind every war and every bullying and everything that's ever happened. It's a fundamental sense of a lack of self-love. If we just take care of ourselves, we're not going to want to hurt anybody because we'll see that we are everybody else. That's the way I see it anyway. Blessings of love, and I will see you on the next go-around. Peace and love, everybody. Bye-bye.